everybody, and congratulate you on your punctuality, even though it is summer. So some things start to slip, but you guys are right here on time. So welcome. So let me introduce the person who's with me today, Ad Komoncharoensiri, and myself. Ad, as you know, as you may know, is the Director of Technical Services, or if for 40 in the U.S., located in the Bay Area in California. And my name is William Taylor, and I'm the technical account manager and head of the professional services team for 40 in the US. So it's always special. Every 3 months, we like to get together. We like to do this for every R release, feature release of 4D. We'd like to do this webinar where we get to highlight all of the new features and work that's been added into 4D over the past 3 months. So this is on top of stabilization, bug fix, all of that work, that all the maintenance tasks. This is the over the top features, new features in 4D that the team have been working really diligently on. A lot of these features come from you, the developer, through the developer community, through the feature request form on discuss.40.com, and we appreciate that. We constantly review that. Not constantly, every week we review it. We do a big review of that, and we are able to then stack up the votes and figure out what our community needs. So yeah. So yeah, without further ado, here's a few ground rules. That's what we're here to talk about. A few ground rules about what we'd like to do. Of course, we can respond chats. Feel free to chat around in the chat feature. No worries. If you do have a question, can you please put in the Q&A section? That allows us to kind of manage it a little bit better. Ad and I try to answer all of the questions as well as we can, either by typing or through orally. The way that it's going to work is we have 4 sections that we're going to be discussing: coding/developer news, visual code updates, some cool things happening there, Qodly, and 40 View Pro and 40 Write Pro. So those are the 4 main topics, chapters that will be going on. There's a lot to discuss this feature release. It's a major feature release. So it's feature heavy. So after each one of these chapters, there's going to be a time where we stop, we break, and we review all of the questions and answers. And even if questions get asked in the Q&A, and they're answered on the fly through the chat or by whomever, we will review those then. So perfect. So yeah, feel free, if anything comes up at any time, feel free to pop in the Q&A, and we'll definitely review it at those kind of stopping points. So I accidentally clicked it. So let's get, without further ado, let's get going. First is developer news. So news that the developers can use. So after implementing the throw command and introducing the try express keyword, 4019R5 is now shipping with the next evolution in 40's error handling, the try catch code blocks. Now, developers can handle and localize errors with precision by encapsulating code with try, catch, and end try keywords. So if an error occurs in that try block, the error is caught, and then you know exactly where the error is caught. So this is, so to think about it, this is to be used in conjunction with global error handling, like on error call. And there is an order of operations that happens there. The first one is the try expression. This is the most accurate, using try. So putting try around code, that allows you to know exactly which code is causing the error, and allows you to check for errors on a single line or multiple lines. And the try catch code block It's a similar, yeah. So try is on single line, try catch code blocks would be on multiple lines. And then the on error call is then the default option for unmanaged errors, local, and the global option on our error calls for the global errors. So so now we feel that you have everything in your hands to handle errors as you wish, either locally, line, a block of code, or generic on error calls. And so that's really cool. A lot of people have seen this, have used this a lot in Java, C++, things like that. And it's a really slick way to be able to really localize your errors and to provide much more defensive programming. So it's very cool. And let's get started right. I'd like to pass the baton to Ad for the first time for the demos.
Okay, hi guys. So finally I get to be part of the presentation. So I'm excited. There's a lot of stuff that I want to cover today, but we won't be able to cover it all. So let's start with the first thing first, which is the try and catch. Now going back a little bit, last webinar we talked about throw, which is a feature that allows you to inject your own error for any type of error that's detectable by your code, right? It's custom error. Try and catch is a little bit different. It catching all of the errors that 4D generated that, result in a runtime or syntax error dialog. So let's have a look at this very simple example, okay? So these 3 lines of code, obviously, when you look at it, it's pretty given. I'm going to be opening up a document, and this document is just some bogus name. It's not going to be there. Will immediately result. I'm going to put a breakpoint here so that you can see what happened. Okay, you get a syntax error. It's result in an error on the screen. Obviously, the document is not there. So if I click continue, what's really happening is going to actually, let me bring down my debugger. Sorry. It's going to go to the next line, right? And then we'll continue for the rest of the execution, whether it's successfully or not. Now, in the past, what we do is we create a on error call to catch that error. And then when we go to the next line, we may be using an if statement that will check for an OK variable. So that's fine, but with the try and catch, it's actually going to be so much helpful in terms of if you run into an error, you want to skip the rest of the execution because why go on if you actually having the issue at the beginning? Let's just skip it, and then you can create some sort of a handler at the end where you're catching that error. So let's change this code a little bit. I'm going to put try at the top here. I'm going to put catch here, right? Down here, it will be the end try. Now, this is where the code is going to hit. So for example, I'm going to run, again, I'm going to put a breakpoint here just to show you which one is going to hit when the error happened. So immediately it jumps to the catch block. It skips this whole thing. Now, this is where you are going to do some error handling yourself. So you may want to take a look at errors that occurs within that execution. So you can maybe calling the command last errors that gives you a stack of what happened. So this is quite nice feature that I'm going to be quite useful for me. That's going to help a lot. I don't have to create some sort of a condition to catch the error, not only in the on error call, but right after the code execution. Okay, so hopefully you guys will start using this more and more. All right, so that's it for the try and catch demonstration. So let me send back to you, Will.
So thanks, Ad, for that cool demo. Hope that shows everybody a little bit how it works. And again, yeah. So And 4020R5 introduces shared classes, which makes it easier to work with shared objects. Shared classes simplify the process of creating and using shared objects by automatically handling the necessary setup, all the underpinnings and things like that. So by adding the shared keyword to a class, constructor, or function, you indicate that, that you will create or modify a shared object. In other words, when you have a single class shared across multiple processes. So great addition to classes. And 4020R5 introduces an extremely helpful feature, singletons. A singleton is an object that is accessible through your entire application. So they offer a multitude of functionalities, serving as hosts for interprocess values and utility classes, and even foundational elements for design patterns, such as the factory pattern. Now they come in two different types. Yeah, there's a singleton. So that's how you define a singleton. So they come in two different types: a regular singleton, which is unique per process, and a shared singleton, which are unique to the whole application. And defining them is simple. You have to add the word singleton to the class constructor, and then you can easily access your singleton using the me attribute. So here you have a singleton class. That's how you share, defining or a normal singleton or a shared singleton, and then you access it by using singleton is singleton class dot me for something that's for a class that's called singleton. And as I mentioned before, we watched the forums, the feature request forums, and this is actually Chris Belanger, is the person that brought this up, and the team loved it and they ran with it. So thank you very much, Chris, for recommending this great functionality. And here's a quick example from the blog that I thought was really illustrative. So that introduces a singleton really well. Now here you have a class called Vehicle Factory that can make a bunch of different you can build a lot of different types of objects: cars, trucks, sports car, or motorbike, or just a general car, right? So you'd have something called you have a vehicle factory object. If you're shared singleton class constructors, you're going to have one per your whole application. And you also have a little bit of information at the beginning of this class factory. You have the number of vehicles that your application has built, which is pretty interesting to know, to have a running total about the amount. Otherwise, you would need to synchronize it or do however you would do that another way. And using a special thing called the vehicle built property, setting it to 0 at the beginning, and then you add one each time you you build a vehicle. But more on that property keyword, as you probably haven't seen it yet, as it's new to R5 later on in the presentation. So you can use this. There we go. To create a vehicle. So you create a vehicle using the vehicle factory.me because you're accessing a singleton, the build vehicle, calling the build vehicle option, and then you pass in the type of vehicle you want. We wanted to build a truck, so we passed in the string literal truck. So really simple way to use that anywhere in your entire application. And you can imagine a lot of different things like that. Logging would be a good thing. Imagine you have one logger. You have one logger for your whole application, and you just say logger.me, then you write the string literal into that logger. Therefore, you have your logging interface through a shared singleton throughout your whole application for your on-error call stuff or whatever you need to do. So very cool. And Add has a demo for this as well. So I will stop sharing and allow him to start sharing.
Okay, let's go with a simple example because this is something that is new, and I think it's going to be very helpful for many development. We're always looking for a way to be able to access some data or define some data that can be used globally. In the past, we always resort to the inter-process variable. So we can always think of it as as a global access or inter-process variable type of concept. But this is implemented to really fulfill the multi-threaded and allow us to really utilize the system fully. So here is a very simple class, and which I have defined as a shared singleton class, and it does nothing more than just doing a counter. In some application, you might want to have an ability to just define some sort of a flag or a counter that keep incrementing when a particular task is happening. So again, from at the top here, this is just a definition of that singleton class constructor. And I define a counter, start with the 0. So, and I created a function to just increment that counter. Now, this counter is a property within this class where it can be loaded or read from any places in your application. So let's put this on the side. Let's close this class and open up a method. So I have something very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and run this method. I'm going to put the breakpoint there. So the very first thing you have to do, you have to instantiate your class. So once you define that class using new, and then I'm going to put this variable up here so you can see, I'm going to increment that counter by 1. So you can see right there that the counter is incremented, and then I'm going to run the alert, right? Very simple. Now, every time when I run a method that execute a new process. So I'm going to go back again. When we look at the content, well, the counter is still 1 because it exists everywhere. It's a singleton that's shared across the processes. So if I increment it again 2, and what's nice about this singleton, shared singleton, is that it uses the same concept as, shared object or collection or even storage. Every time when we try to make modification to those storage or share items, we always have to use the use block, right? And then to make sure that we gain access to make modification. Now, with share singleton, you don't really have to. So I'm going to show it to you. It does it automatically. If you are trying to make modification, it's going to happen automatically. So first, I'm going to run this method. Okay, I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to put a wait state. I'm going to launch another process. All right, so here I'm going to, again, let me get rid of that. Okay, save that. I'm going to execute increment. That's 3 now, okay? So here, actually, that's not what I wanted to do. I was supposed to do something else. So let me get out of here first. I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint, not there, but here. So it's represent a wait. I'm going to run the method again. Now we have 2 instances that's going to be doing the same thing. The first guy is going to go. Okay, now I'm right here. And now I'm going to click here. All right, you can see that I'm actually clicked it, but you don't really see anything happening because it's waiting for this process to handle this property. As soon as I am done with the execution, you can see that this process get to go through. So it's automatic queuing system that you don't really need to worry about, data collision or any race condition. Okay, so yeah, it's as quite simple as that. The concept is quite the same as any shared object or collection, as well as storage. All right. Okay, so back to you, Will.
Thank you. And looking at so someone made a comment, Chris made a comment. He said he uses singletons to manage the menu bar in Windows, cache, and communication between client servers as well. I think there's an example in the blog about WebSocket servers, using singletons with WebSocket servers. So great way. Also great uses of more complicated, but great uses of singletons. Let me go back and share my screen. 4020R5 introduces a new feature so this is the one that I talked about last time, that streamlines property declaration in classes. So allowing developers to initialize properties simultaneously with their declaration in a single line. So this enhancement simplifies code readability and efficiency, reducing the need for separate initialization blocks. Developers can create cleaner code, more maintainable code base with options for inferred types or declared types and initialization. So we have property name and the type. That's when you don't want to give it a default value, or you just have its default value provided. Property name and value. So the type is inferred in that. So for example, property my blob, if you pass in a get blob to my blob, it's gonna 4D will know that property is a blob. True, if you pass in true, it knows by Boolean, etc. All of those work. And then you can do, if you're like me and you wear suspenders and a belt, you can both define the type and the initial value for a given property name. So property my real is pi, okay? Pi's are real. And then, or my int, property my int integer to be 1. So very cool, slick way, modern way to use and declare class properties on a single line and initialize them on a single line. So cool. So as you've seen before, there is a session command in 4D that allows you to get information about your web and mobile session. Ad uses heavily in his session last summit. So now in 20R5, we've introduced and extended the functionality to the session command, covering both client-server communication and stored procedures in 4D application. Now, this update introduces a new class called client-server session, specifically designed for 4D remote sessions, offering the following possibilities offering the following properties, offering access to the following properties of your session, like ID, info, storage, and username. See, ID, info, storage, and username. Great, and you now have these. So now this has been extended to remote sessions, so 4D client and stored procedures. And I'll show you in some of the examples later. You'll see how this is in use. So very cool. And in 19R8, we introduced a robust permission system in 4D, granting you granular control over user access to your data. So this system protects your data depending on who accesses it and which data is being accessed, ensuring data security by restricting unauthorized access, right? But what if you wanted to further refine read access based on specific criteria? Like this example. Well, here we go. That's where 40R5 steps in, restricting read data according to some criteria within an event called restrict. So restrict is a special event in a class that provides you the ability to restrict data based on certain conditions, right? So you write those conditions in this restrict object, and then you're able to do that. For example, this is an example that I grabbed from the blog that I think is really illustrative. You want your salesperson to only see their invoices, for example. You don't want people looking over. You want your salesperson, whenever they open up their 4D application, to see their invoices, for example. So here we have a really cool thing. So in this restrict, there's a case of there's a switch, and then if the sales info is not a null, then you're able to get your session storage sales info.internal ID. You're able to query and restrict on your 4D remote session object. So It's a really cool, slick use case of the use of the new session object in 40 remote and the restrict function in a 40 data class. Cool. Now 20R5 brings a new feature that simplifies component management as well. It's in the menu bar under project dependencies. So you no longer need to store project components in a components folder. Instead, this feature uses two files, dependencies.json and another file, environment40.json, giving developers clear insight into their application dependencies for components and the ability to customize their component paths. So this can be used for this can be used definitely in development and in production. And Ad was able to kick the tires and show you wants to go through all of the files and show you how it all kind of fits together inside of a 40 application. So without further ado.
This is one of the very cool features that I found in R5, and it is something that I've been thinking about it, and many people are going to run into the use case for it, and I'm pretty sure because of 40 now offering project mode. So there are two parts. In the feature itself, it's very out of the box, is catered for development process. So for example, if you have a component, for example, that you are developing alongside with your host database, and then as you are working on a component, you haven't touched anything on your host database, you don't really want to have the status of your host package to be set to modify so that the GitHub will think that, oh, something needs to be updated. Normally, the component will be inside of the components folder, inside of the package, along with next to the project folder. So that's why the whole package is usually being detected by something like Git repository. So let me show you how it actually works, and it's going to help you with the process of your development. So in this application right here, I'm going to shut it down first. Here is the folder of my application. And right now, what I need to do in order to utilize this feature is I need to open up the sources folder. And there will be a file that you need to place inside of your sources folder in order to create a dependency to your component. So I have one file that I created. This is just, again, a blank dependency file. .json. Again, the name is dependencies.json. I'm going to open it with my text editor. And I'll even increase the font size a little bit. So the structure is just like so. An object containing one property, and that property will be an object as well. So inside of this dependency, you can create any list of your component that you want to use with your host database. And this could be, the perfect time for you to make a decision, or is it going to be my build component or the source component? You can choose any one. So in this case, I'm going to put in the name of my component. And actually, what you put here will be the literal term of your component package or the folder, okay? So in this case, I'm going to put the name of my component package, the folder name of my package. All right, so it's gonna be be called DS access. All right, so now it also can possess multiple attributes that is really catered to Git development. I'm not going to go over those features. You can take a look at some of those on our documentation page. There's quite a bit of attributes that you can use. But for now, let's keep it this way. I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to close this dependency file. Going back to the top, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you when it's detecting or not detecting the component that you specify that your host database want to use. So in order to do that, we can go to the design menu. There's a new menu option, project dependency. When you click on it, it will show all of the installed component, whether it's coming from your application itself or from 4D components folder. Okay, so you can see that a lot of these are 4D components that came directly from 4D application. So the last item here is kind of pink background. It has a not found here. It's indicating that you have specified your dependency, but it cannot find the location of this file. Now, where the location is actually that it's looking for is actually right here. Okay, next to your package folder. So that will be the default location when you specify only the file name into that file. So what I want to do here is I'm going to go and grab my component from my source folder. So in fact, this is, it's a development component, right? So it's, I'm going to go ahead and start with this first. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Let's say I put the component next to my package. Let's close it. Let's close that. And I'm going to now restart 4D. Okay, let's restart it. All right, so let's have a look. Okay, now when we come down here, it's no longer showing the problem. It detected that the component is there. And you can also go directly and find out where that location is, right? So it jump and open it. You can see that the component folder is there. It has all the elements and sources folder inside. Now, to make sure that it's actually detecting everything properly, so we can go to methods. Under component methods, you can see DS access is here. And we can go down, you can see all of the methods that is part of that component folder. Okay, so it makes this things very nice, because if you are working on the component source and you haven't touched the host, you may have a different repository created for your component, and your host can just, has its own independent repository, right? So now that's the default one that is just giving it a name. What about if you have a lot of components? Yeah, obviously you probably don't want to, well, at least my personal choice. I hate having to copy things around, so I always, have a dedicated folder where all of my components are at, or the sources are. So I want to keep them there. I don't want to have to keep copying it, right? So let's say we remove that, okay? And what we want to do, we want to utilize the path to the actual source of that component folder. So what we need to do is, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go inside of this project folder and copy that dependency file, okay? I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to place that file there. Now, at this level, the name of the file has to be changed, because it's by design. It's not going to be dependency. It's going to be called environment 4d.json, okay? So we're going to go inside of this file with a text editor. Okay, now at this point, what we need to do here is we need to identify, we need to specify the path. The path could either be an absolute or a relative, whichever you prefer. So in this case, I'm going to define the absolute path. Now I'm going to go and find my component again, which is here. This is the location. Again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use the browser just to give me the path to this folder. Okay, I copy that, go to this file, paste in the path, and that's it. Okay, now we have the absolute path to that folder. I'm going to save the file, close it, close this folder. and this folder will remain the same. And now we are going to restart our application. Oh, it's still running. So I'm gonna close that first. Okay. Okay, the application started. We are going back to project dependency. You see that is there. And if we are clicking on show on this, it's going to send us all the way to that specific location. Quite nice. Again, we can go back and take a look at the component list and make sure that everything is loaded properly, which it does. And that's perfect. Okay, so again, this not only work with the single user, you can do this in client and server as well. And another thing is during the compilation, 40 does copy the source of the component that you identify in your dependency or your environment 40.json. That's, you know, whichever version that you were using, whether it was the source version or a built version, it will grab that and stick everything into the component folder for you. Okay. All right, that's all. Let's go back to you, Will.
Thanks, Ad. Cool explanatory demo. Thank you. So based on your feedback, we've significantly enhanced the 40 project setup. So before, all project details like in the structure editor, the colors, the position of the tables, the fields, the relations were stored in catalog.40 catalog. And this was a file that was that had all of this is a file that contained all of the parameters and the settings for your 40 application. And whenever a developer would make a change in GitHub, you would see a change there, you would need to merge it, etc. So it became kind of unwieldy. And one of the largest feature requests ever, the most voted for feature requests ever, was to split up the catalog of a 40 catalog. And we're continuing to work on that little by little. We're chipping it away. And we've now split the settings for the structure editor into another file called catalog_editor.json. So something to be aware of. This makes managing changes and reviewing work easier, especially when multiple developers are involved. So you can keep your own. If you like to see everything in yellow, you can see everything in yellow, and the guy next to you likes to see everything in purple. They can see everything in purple as well. So with this change, the catalog file stays untouched when someone adjusts the table or field. So this helps prevent conflicts. It makes reviewing changes simpler. Plus, we've added an option to switch to this new setup for older projects. So if you've actually turned on this feature, don't worry, you can easily undo it by reverting to the old setup. So yeah, here you have, this is how I like to see mine. You may like to see it different, and ours, we won't have a conflict if I try to merge the application. So here's the old 40 catalog 40. You have the table names, the field, and then all of their kind of display attributes. That's now gone. Well, and now we split it up into two different files, or we've split out those into files that make sense. So you see you have the 40 catalog, so it has the real pertinent information, table name, fields, and relations, and everything else that's based on someone's preferences is in the catalog editor.json file. I think that makes a lot of sense. So that's it for the general developer news. I'm going to go into 40 Netkit. 40 Netkit is a component that is an open source component that is in constant development on GitHub. And it's something that you can use in either a binary or a project mode or project. A binary project or a project, project mode project, and you're able to use 40 Netkit to do all sorts of, let's see, modern networking things like talking the Graph API, email stuff. This is where when things are getting deprecated from the commands from, I forget, internet commands. Things are getting moved into Netkit. So, and you have the code, you can review it and you can see exactly what's going on your end. So, and with every release, there's a new version of Netkit that comes out and it's fully supported by the 4D team. So now in 20R5, we have a new feature that allows you to create draft emails and save them directly into designated labels in your mailbox without sending them. This allows you to easily access and modify your templates whenever you need to send a similar type of email. So here you see, you have you can create your connection to, let's say, Google. You create your OAuth connection thanks to the Netkit component. And then you can do the appending and sending of that email based on whatever you need to do. So very cool and very simplifies working with emails, email servers, Gmail, Outlook, things like that in a much easier way. And also the Netkit has, because it's the modern tool and it's the modern way that we're connecting with different systems, we add a lot of OAuth support. So this version has a lot of new OAuth things in it. So first one is PKCE, or Proof Key for Code Exchange, in OAuth 2.0 authentication support. So by turning on PKCE enabled setting in the CS Netkit, in the OAuth 2 provider class, you're able to increase security against interception and replay attacks. So this feature adds extra protection by making sure each authorization code exchange is cryptographically secure. So if you need to connect using PKCE to a system, you can now do it thanks to the Netkit out of the box. And there's a demo in the blog post. And in 20R5 also supports certificate-based authentication for OAuth 2.0 for enhanced security as well. So authentication becomes more robust by using certificates instead of client secrets, especially with servers like the Microsoft Identity Platform. So that's the Azure app certificate there. And then you're able to, just I threw in some code here that you're able to get the thumbprint in your application to use to see how exactly that's used. And I recommend if you do need to connect with OAuth 2.0, there's a lot of caveats and there's a lot of subtleties to it. So definitely review the blog and then go to developer.4dcom and also the GitHub page for Netkit, where you'll get all the information that you need. Okay. And while quick, the future network system between 4D remote and 4D server is still in development and not production ready yet, 20R5 adds more functionalities. So we feel it's time to start testing this out in your network, in your testing network. The broadcast feature allows for users to easily identify and connect to 4D servers running applications on their network, ensuring a seamless integration, right? Additionally, the broadcast functionality has been refined to provide more accurate server listing, ensuring users only connect to relevant servers. Also, we've added IPv6 support in 20R5 so you can use your 4D server on an IPv6 network. And we've also implemented SSO using Quick on Windows. So these three features combined bring now the feature set of Quick up to that of the level of ServerNet, or the new network layer. So we are deploying this in our internal systems, Quick. We have various applications running it, and with great success. So by all means, if you want to test out the new network layer, the newest network, I don't know, we'll call it Quick. Otherwise, I'll get confused. On your test system, by all means, you can definitely do that. So that's it for Netkit kind of networking things. We're going to go into some major overhauls in the user interface. So two new window types allow you to design window title bar yourself and add your own elements, such as search boxes or buttons. This means you have complete freedom to tailor your application's appearance based on your specification. So if we see here, this hello world, that's a 4D form. That's the 4D form that pops up. Real simple. And now you have complete control. You don't have any more, there's no title, there's no buttons, there's no nothing, right? It's just that. So very cool. Could be an interesting thing, but that just shows you the kind of support that you have. And as Ad is our main UI guy in the US team, he couldn't wait to take these for a test drive. So, and here's what he came up with. So let me swap over to you, Ad. Stop sharing.
So we'll already show two types of windows, but for me, the one that I would find myself using, and many of us will probably be using, is the plain window with no title, and I'll show you why. So I have two examples, one for Mac, one for Windows, and if you are looking at some of the new trend of design, even looking at your Zoom app right now, everything is on the top, pushing all the way to the top. The titles, including tabs, as well as some of the control features, all the way to the top. It's not really restricted to just title anymore. So we take the same concept of I implement a little bit something that will show both platforms. So we have something like this, right? Quite demonstrate the point. So usually up here, there will be strictly reserved for title, right? But in this case, we can actually utilize this area to do a something like a search functionality, and all kinds of stuff that you can do, right? So this is just one example. So here's another example. You can have a little bit more, more options in there. And here's the clickable button. You can also have another option in here, and alongside with the title. And these ones, again, it's very easy to program. And on the blog, there is an example that you can download and take a look at. Some of the icon comes with it. So if we want to expand this window, it does everything automatically. You can see right away that it behaves exactly like normal title, the title bar. We can bring it down, and again, every time when we do an expand or resizing of the window, it behaves exactly the same. Or we can even add a splitter all the way to the top of the window. In some UI design, you probably want to have some ability to do something like this, right? So, which is going to be quite useful in terms of how you would like your application to look like and feel like in production. So that is usually what you'll see on the app side, which is all of the window control buttons is on the top left. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and close all of these windows and open a similar windows, but this one is going to be the Windows version. So you can see that all of these elements again get pushed all the way and placed at the same level as the control buttons for the Windows. For the Windows itself, some of these things look a little different, obviously, but all of the functionality will continue to work like so. You can, do a similar type. You can expand, you can minimize, as well as here. Depends on what you want to do. So I decided to pull down the splitter to not go all the way to the top, but you can also make that as part of your option of your design as well. Okay, and again, the type of the windows is actually that right there. Okay, another Windows type, just to go back quickly and just kind of mention it, which is the movable windows and with no title. All right, so hope you guys get inspired with some of these things and go out and build on our fancy and wonderful UI. All right, back to you, Will.
Thanks, Ad. Excellent. Cool demo. It's nice to see, yeah, that we can have complete control. So there are the development, let's say, things. So we covered a lot of ground already. We talked about developer stuff. We talked about UI stuff. We talked about networking stuff. We talked about Quick. So there's a lot of topics. Couple questions in there. So we love
Yeah,
questions.
I hit
I
the
started
button
answering
too
some of
quickly.
them.
Yeah. So let's go to the first one, Will. Where
Which one?
does the storage for the session live? Is it kept on 40 server, or is it on 40 remote, or does it live in both places and is kept in sync? Now, the storage that is part of the session is basically, it's part of the session object. Session object itself is almost like a storage, when we talk about that storage, but it's just the keyword that we use as part of the session object. The session gets created where the server is called. Now, the server, it depends on what server we're talking about. Is it a web server or a REST server, right? The REST server obviously is going to be called on the server side for the server. The web server, on the other hand, can exist on either on the 40 server side or 40 remote, depending on where you publish your web server. So the storage that is part of the session goes with it, is basically wherever that session is generated.
Okay, cool. Next question is, are there plans to include a dependency editor native for 4D? It seems like this would be simple to do, whereas editing JSON isn't as nice. If it's
Yeah, I don't think that there's any plans just yet. Again, this feature just came out just right out of the box, right? So obviously, I can imagine that someone, right now would go out and build something, but it's nice to come out right out of the box. So please feel free to file feature requests for it.
yeah, it could be something that could be done on the side as
Yeah.
well, I feel. Okay, thank you. Someone asked, when using OAuth 2.0, does this mean that we can send emails through Gmail without problems, assuming we set it up right? Of course. To send emails through Google, do we have to go through a certification process with Google to be certified for our application to be permitted to send emails through them? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of how do I's on that. Definitely getting the emails from your email server, from your Gmail server. I think you can use OAuth 2.0, and if you connect appropriately to your application, then you're able to then send emails. Is that correct, Ad?
I'm not aware of that requirement, to be honest. But
Yeah.
definitely, usually when you use the feature to access your email, that content, there's a, as part of the, OAuth 2.0, there's a token and a identification that you have to provide when you make a request to the server. So additional certification for your app, I don't think it's necessary. Maybe I could be wrong, but I've never heard of that requirement. I would recommend, I mean, I don't want to dismiss, but for the last question, Joe, if you could post that, that's kind of outside of the topic of discussion here. If you could post that either directly to open as a support case or open a forum discussion, that might be more appropriate. Okay.
Okay, so and I was trying to answer some questions as we were going because we were getting quite a few. So I guess someone asked about a support for V19. Yes, a support for V19 is over. Okay. V20 is the only supported version right now, and the next time there will be at 21, there will be a newly supported version. Looking at the product lifecycle, 20 version 20 of 4D goes support end of life in 2 years. So you have 2 years of support for LTS versions of 4D. All right, sweet. So let's keep this going. Next is on to 4D Write Pro. 4D Write Pro news. So long gone are the days when I would be afraid of putting an image in a document and moving that image just a little bit and having the document look like it went through the garbage disposal, right? Now, thanks to improvements in 4D over the past few years, we now have the ability to have nearly complete control over how text flows around picture and text boxes. Now, there are a lot of options like this for text wrapping, as with any sort of word processing. Word processing support. So I can't go into them all here today, but there are a few in the text wrapping images in the slide, like wrap square left, wrap square, wrap square larges, etc. And also, we didn't forget about exporting as well. We took care of that. So, and visit for the blog for the complete how do I and to look at the documentation for the full description. And actually, the how do I in the blog is really good. It's just it does exactly what it does, and it fully covers all of the features for text wrapping around text boxes and pictures. And did want to show off his demo. Oh yeah, that's how it's going to look a little later. You see how all the pictures are moving. But that's great, but that's a great demo. That's how I would have done it before. But now, in this new format, Ad is going to give us a really nice demo and kind of talk us through the feature a little bit more.
Okay, let's see. So we are back with this database. So you will find that on the specific blog post for this particular feature that comes with a downloadable example. It will show you all of the details, the commands that you can use, as well as some of the feature that is built into as part of the tool set of 4D Write Pro. What I like to do is to kind of break some of those things down and just keep it as simple as possible so that you can imagine what possibility that you can do with your 4D Write Pro application. So what we have here, I'm going to launch my method, run my method here. So we have this document that was created. I used some of the information from our marketing materials online and then just place them into the document here. It's nothing special. There's a text box here and a bunch of paragraph down here. Okay. So what's cool about this is that we are actually allowing both text box as well as image to be pretty free flow anywhere on your document. And you can control the type of flow, whether it's going to be, on the top only, bottom, left, right, or even within the text. You can have that option to control all of these features. So when I click on here, you'll see all of these options available here. So let's just say if I decided to move this text box down, you can see that it's actually allowing text to kind of flow and wrap around this text box very nicely. There's no issue in terms of the display or the placement of the text box. And you can see it very clearly, okay? Now you can actually see if I click on this icon right here, it put everything on the top right. It's almost like if you want to create some sort of a watermark, but in this case, it's not really a watermark, it's a text object. So what we can do here, let's say if I want to make some changes to this layout and move things around a little bit, resizing of this text box, making sure that it fits with all the text that I have in there, okay? Maybe adjust the margin of this text box also. Right now it's set at 6 points. I want to increase it maybe to 12 points to give it a little bit more better visibility. So you can see I have changed the layout of the document by using just strictly the feature that is available from the drop down as well as from the tool set here. And not only that, you can have all of these modification controllable by program. So for the Write Pro, give you a set of attributes and command that will allow you to do that. Okay, so let's switch to another demo, and this one is going to be similar to the last one. It has a little bit more content, now, which is some pictures, and you can see that we have different location of the pictures. So on this paragraph, we have a picture on the left, this one on the right, left, right. And the nice thing is that when you start dragging or you can also programmatically move things around as well. But if I drag this picture to the right so that everything plays correctly, you can see that now the layout looks a little different now. I have a new layout while maintaining the display of everything nicely without, sacrificing or having to deal with some misplacement of my text or location. So all of these, again, is quite simple to implement. And all of this picture, all you have to do is just drag and drop in or programmatically load them into your document, and you'll be able to move them anywhere you want. Okay, so hopefully, you can take this in conjunction, combined with some of the additional example on the blog post to learn how to control your document better. All right, back to you, Will.
Thanks, Ed. Another addition to 4D R20 is sections. And actually, I believe sections were there, but and sections are a vital feature when generating complicated documents, be it that you would like to have a completely separate theme for your cover page, for example, or you need to change the orientation of the text from one page or section to another. A really good way to do that is with sections. So now we've made it easier in the interface to use sections. So we've exposed this ability to have different sections with a lot of different type of options for it. And that's one thing I have seen working with 4D and working with the developers in 4D is that there are wild uses of 4D Write Pro all around the world, and everybody's doing it their own way. And it's every time I get a new question or a case about 4D Write Pro, it's always a new opportunity to see how to use different features in 4D or even in Microsoft Word that I've never heard of or didn't know about. So sections are easier to use, and if you need to do that, it makes it easier. Okay, so 4020R5 also removes the 1,000 row limits to your tables when generating documents. So there was some people hit against this glass ceiling a little bit that I've spoken with. They have they have massive, not always invoices, that would be nice, but a lot of times it's lab results and things like that for people, or just a massive table that needs to be done for logging or things like that for compliance purposes. So yeah, there was a 1,000 row limit underpinning in your 4D document. Well, you didn't like it, raised an issue, didn't like it, feature request was raised, and we now removed that 1,000 row limit and don't have a limit anymore. So the only limit now is the available memory on your computer. So with great power comes great responsibility. If you don't want to do that, don't always do it. But and you can now associate data sources with tables, enabling automatic population without constraints. So just remember, for UI performance, you will not see more than 1,000 rows, I believe. Yeah, 1,000 rows in a 4D Write Pro document in the UI. But they will be generated upon the export or upon the generation of the report. So if that is something you're concerned with, by all means, I think demo here. Yeah, you have a ton. You can have just massive documents, 8. I don't know if that goes over 1,000, but you can have as many as you need. I generated a 50, 60, 70, 80 page one. I plugged in the how do I and it was fun. So that's it for 40 Write Pro new features. Let me pop open the chat, or sorry, the Q&A. Yeah, someone asked in the forum. Well, someone asked in the question, is there an option to have borders on the text picture boxes? Yes, there's an option for that. There's a ton of options. And then Aaron asked, are there plans to add test suites like Go's testing or Python's unit test? And Kesuke, coming in from Japan, said that developers have published their own unit testing framework on GitHub. So Kirk Brooks has published that as well. So feel free to grab that link that we shared with you. And that's awesome. That's really cool community support. And thank you, Kirk and the team for working on that and helping out other people in the GitHub environment. And I wanted to say, great ideas. All of these new feature requests, by all means, put them in the feature request forum, vote for it. The other developers vote for it, and then we review it every week. The feature request form for you to be able to ensure for us to that allows us to direct our development in 4D based on the needs of the developers. So someone asked, are all these features in project mode or available in binary?
All of these features are strictly project mode. You do not don't anticipate any new feature for binary. We maintain existing feature for binary, but any new features that we implemented, especially at this point for moving forward, will be strictly for binary.
Yeah. I presume that by default it's project mode only. Sometimes it will work in binary, but we're just we'll only use project mode.
Yeah, most likely it will not. Here's the reason, a very simple reason why. All of these features will have to run in compile. Okay, binary will not run on Apple Silicon compile, so we will not spend time writing a feature that will not run in Apple Silicon compile.
And also, Kesuke said about the unit testing, have a look at Plugger's unit test, 40 unit test application as well. So thank you, Kesuke, for this the support. Next, Qodly news. And if anything pops up during, by all means, we'll make a couple more breaks. So 20R5 introduced a new feature for your REST APIs usage in Qodly only. So this is a Qodly only feature, and that's called force login. So before, whenever your web session would query the REST server in a Qodly app, you would consume a license. Now this would be a bit awkward because if you had, for example, a custom login screen, say I log into I open up a browser, log into my Qodly application, go hit the custom login screen, that would just simply rendering that application would consume a client license. That's functional, right? But not optimal. Right? We're not here to do just functional. So in 20R5, the team has introduced a new feature called force login, meaning you only consume a license from your server when you actually start working with your app. And also when you log out, you can also free that log out. So say I log in, consume a license, I log out, I'm done. Licenses is freed. Now with forced login mode, licenses are consumed only when the user starts working with the app's data and logic of your REST server. This means you have reduced license consumption, so better price, improved user experience, and better resource management on your end. And again, this is a Qodly only feature, not a REST API feature. Okay. And also another major milestone in Qodly is Qodly now supports custom components. So custom components are user-created building blocks developed to address unique requirements or introduce specific features that are not covered by the default feature set of the Qodly built-in components. These components are created in React, providing a flexible and powerful foundation for developers. Now, custom components are managed in Qodly Studio to match the performance of built-in components, mitigating any potential drawbacks associated with response and interaction time. So if you want to use a custom component, use a custom component, you're not going to have a performance hit. These components are generously shared for free download within the community at the moment. Or they're on GitHub for the community. So if you're interested in contributing your custom component to this collective effort, we invite you to do so on the custom components page for Qodly. It's down there. So, and we started building a bunch ourselves. There's accordion, there's QR code, custom component, and a lot of things on our GitHub page at the moment. So for example, a calendar component, calendaring makes a lot of sense for applications. So there is now a React component for you to create really modern, really beautiful calendaring in your application. If that interests you, by all means, visit the GitHub page. And so those are the main kind of Qodly features that have been added into R5. With every new version of 4D, there's a new that comes shipped with a new version of Qodly Studio for 4D. Again, we're talking about the Qodly Studio for 4D, not the web platform version of 4D. So this is for 4D developers that would like to create an application, kind of an offshoot application using Qodly for their current development in 4D. So super cool. And there's also been a lot of work on the stabilization, and we're working really hard to get out of developer preview of Qodly. So, Cascade came in again. As a general rule, if a feature is documented in doc.40.com, as in the case with 4D Write Pro features, it's available in binary mode. So that's a good rule of thumb. Thank you. Thank you, Cascade. Next, let's go into someone asked, just confirmation on REST license use. If using 4D server and connecting via Qodly, the forced login consumption of 4D server REST licenses only consumed when they're logged in. Yes, that's my understanding. And also, Kesuke said that Netkit, 4D Netkit has a binary compatible component for binary mode as well. Next on to 4D View Pro. I believe this is the penultimate section. Sometimes you may require specialized calculations on the contents or of a column or a row without knowing how many cells will be affected. 4020R5 now enables custom calculations on column or row contents within a spreadsheet without this prior knowledge. So as we see here, here's a function, takes in a collection, and you're averaging the non-zero values. So you add up all of the sums. You get the number of all of the numbers minus all of the zero numbers, and then you return their division with the ternary operator to ensure that you're not never dividing by 0. So, yeah, and to keep this alive, Add has a really cool demo for you guys.
Okay, so I like to keep this demos very simple and straightforward. Again, the example that you will be able to download from the particular blog will have, you know, a little bit more advanced demos, but I want to get the concept across. So what we can do now with 40view Pro is to be able to define a custom function, right? So that custom function could be just about anything that returns a value, and be able to populate the data into the onto the spreadsheet. So what we have, I have created just a simple function class here, and in order to create a function, a custom function, you have to start out with building your own maybe something like this, right? Class that, you know, be able to return a formula. So I built something that's quite simple. I call it day, and you can get today's date, which is, you know, pretty straightforward. Almost like you can just put in current date in there. Yesterday's date, tomorrow. Okay, very simple. So in order to call these functions from 40view Pro, the next step is to define or install this function into your 40view Pro. Usually you'll do it during the loading of your area. So here is the 40view Pro. There's a form with 40view Pro on it. I'm going to right click and show you what's inside. Okay, so we have the form event equal to onload of the area, and we start out with by creating instantiate the class, right? So just basically be able to acquire that class object into a variable, and then we'll create an object. Okay, so this object is going to store each of the class function reference. So here, basically, we just giving it a name. And again, the name that you put in here when you're actually using it on the spreadsheet or the 40view Pro itself is going to get converted into uppercase automatically. So I just took a liberty, just go ahead and put uppercase for all of them. Okay, so today is going to have the today function install, and yesterday again with yesterday a function, tomorrow, and so on. And once I have this object, I can just call the command vp set custom function, okay, and pass it as a second parameter. You can install as many class functions as you want, and it doesn't have to be from one single class as well. In some cases, you have a generic class for a particular purpose, which you can do that and combine them into a single object, or you can make multiple calls of the set custom function to install individual class function as well. Okay. So once we have this, then we are ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. Let's go ahead and launch this method, and it's going to just go ahead and open up the form. So currently, I don't really have anything. So for example, you know, I'm just going to do something very simple. So today, tomorrow, yesterday, okay? So I want the corresponding date to appear over here. So what do we do? Usually when you call a function, you start off with an equal sign. So what is it today? So today, so you can see it's listed there. I can just tab and just go to the next line. It shows today's date, right? Very simple. Same as tomorrow. Same as yesterday. Okay. So the reason why I'm doing this very simple function is just to get you to just understand the basic, you know, construction of your class and your function. You know, the content that you will put will respond with your function is really up to you. But you can do all kinds of things. But because of 40 View Pro give you a really huge set of functionality, there will be a tons more that is not going to be there by default, and that's what will be your part to create them and based on your business requirement or the needs of your use case. So you can build them any way you want, but the basic rule is quite simple. You build a class, you install each function from that class into the 40 View Pro through the command that is available. And once it's loaded, all of those functions will be available for you. Okay. All right. That's it for me. Back to you, Will.
Super cool. Thanks, Ad. So next is on to Visual Code. So this is VS Code. So this is cool. This is 4D in VS Code. So when we're making a lot of changes to 4D and modernizing the 4D editor, right? And 4D editor is still the main editor for 4D. So whenever you work with 4D code, the best place to do it is on your 4D editor. But some people do, but we're adding various changes on underpinnings that allow us and modernizing the usage, I guess the language server and all of the usage of the editor that allow us to then have these side effects, happy side effects that allow us to have work with the Visual Studio's code. So, and Visual Studio's code is, people like to use it because you can be, people don't only work in 4D, they work across multiple technologies, and you can go from one project to another or one workspace to another. So yeah, so we feel that there's a need for developers in more modern environments. So 20R5 and the 4D Analyzer extension, Visual Studio's Code now offers workspace syntax checking. So this helps. So what is a workspace? A workspace is a set of folders, right? So you can think of a workspace as all the folders that creates, all the files and folders that create a single instance of a 4D application. So the settings, the config, the methods, the forms, etc. So this helps reduce errors and streamline coding by checking the entire 4D project for mistakes on whenever every so often. So errors and warnings are shown in the sidebar, making spotting and fixing issues easy. And there are a lot of new caveats and subtleties to this feature. So if you work with multiple 4D projects at the same time, this could be interesting. So you can have one workspace per project and be able to manage them all through workspaces and have your error checking specifically only for that workspace. So that's interesting to you. I would recommend checking out the blog. And now we have we have a way within Visual Studio Code to automatically update your tool 4D downloads in VS Code. This allows you to make sure your tools are up to date with the latest version, either basing them off the stable or the beta channel of the Tool 4D code base or application. So this should take the guesswork and let VS Code do the updating for you automatically. You don't need to, and just to let you know, you don't need to auto update if that's not your thing. You can disable the feature for auto update as well. So just an interesting thing for 4D. And 4D is truly embracing modern development practices with the integration of 4D and GitHub Codespaces. So what is a code space? So I guess this provides you a really cool way to debug, patch, develop from anywhere with an internet connection. So if you're using GitHub, you can set up a code space to be a specific branch and either connect Codespace to, using GitHub Codespace app, VS Code, or GitHub Online Codespaces. Very fun, very fun. Now give it a try, and don't worry, the whole team can access and work on the code in this code space simultaneously. And with the 4D Analyzer tool, you could also have syntax checking, so you're not making silly syntax errors in your code. And for a video on how all of this is done, because we're already going over, there is an 8-minute demo of how this all works and showcasing this feature on the blog. And if that sounds cool to you to see how you can use GitHub tools to develop, to write, deploy, and develop and patch, by all means, I recommend you watch the video. It gives you a real step-by-step way of doing this. So, and that is almost it. So I don't know if I've enticed you guys enough, y'all enough to download 4020 R5. But it's on the product download. It's been available for about a week. And yeah, so I recommend you all run and download the 4020 R5. Whenever there's a new version of a feature release, the best place to start with learning about the features really is the blog. The product team and the engineering team spend a lot of time making, trying to understand the use cases and really presenting them in the blog in a palatable and easy to understand way, based on use cases and quick, enough to get you started, right? Enough to make you dangerous, and then you can then go to developer.40.com and really grok, spend more time and understand completely the feature. And I believe there will be an email sent after this for feedback. Appreciate it. We listened to your feedback. We changed it up this time based on feedback, trying to add more live demos, trying to add a little bit more, not necessarily back and forth, but to kind of go over these things a little more. Sorry for, I know that we went over on time a little bit, so I want to be cognizant of your time. I want to say thank you all for joining us, and yeah, that's it. So thank you.